It's the weekend of Extreme Rules! Nobody needs to be that excited, but hey, I want to get you all pumped up and I want to get you all ready. Because let's face it, this episode of SmackDown didn't really do it now, did it? I'm just joking, because there was some good bits and there was some bad bits, which works out very well for me, because you're watching ups and downs where the good bits get it up and the bad bits get her down. There was no need to throw that hat over there with so much aggression. My name is Simon Miller and let's up those damn downs. You know how WWE always starts with somebody coming out to the ring and they get a microphone and they go, here's what I'm going to do this week. And you're like, yeah, no, we get it. Well, we didn't do that this week, and instead, we had a bunch of promos of wrestlers talking right to the camera, as in the background, this music was all like dun 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 dun, like Batman was about to turn up. I flippin' loved it. Up. Had AJ Styles saying he was going to beat Matt Riddle in the main event, and then Matt Riddle saying, haha, you're wrong, I'm actually going to beat AJ Styles later on, and Daniel Bryan was there giving his opinion and everything. And then we cut to The Miz and John Morrison, who were doing comedy, because John Morrison is going to fight Braun Strowman later, and that was a little out of place, but whatever. Strowman then also cut in and did his usual ho 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 ho, because that's what he always does as of late, and we had Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro say they were going to whip the Newsday's ass, and it all ended with Kofi Kingston and Big E, and they were just throwing stuff around too, and then Big E did his all, oh, people at home thing, and then they came out to the ring. What a great little package. If you're an old school fan, it was like when WWE used to do those Royal Rumble videos before the Royal Rumble, as wrestlers just, like pictures of wrestlers, just flew towards the camera as Vince McMahon went, oh, it's the Barbarian, it's the Warlord. More of this. And then I almost died. Like, I genuinely thought I was having a heart attack, but what I realized was I was experiencing something that I have never experienced despite being on this earth for 30 or so years. Because Cesaro won a match. What the hell? I mean, was there a smudge on the booking sheet and everybody got confused because Cesaro got a pinfall victory in a singles contest? I will never get over this. It is getting it up. Now, from nowhere, this did turn out that whoever was going to win between the Swiss Superman and Big E was going to get to pick the stipulation for their tag team match at Extreme Rules, and that just came out of nowhere. And also, why is this the one idea WWE has had this month? We are doing this in so many different matches, you don't need to run stuff into the ground. On top of that, the choices were tables match or cage match. You knew it was going to be a tables match, given what we saw last week, and also, how would you fit a cage in the Performance Center? It's like me when I try and get into these extra small shirts. Should I do it? No, but can I just about make it work? Yes. Yet again, SmackDown was drowning in the 3 finishes, and of course that's disqualification, distraction, and surprise roll-up, but I don't even care. I'm throwing it out the window because, again, Cesaro won a damn match. I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura did just blast Big E, which made him go, oh, and then he got hit by the neutralizer, but yes, there it was, the 1, 2, 3. Cesaro was successful, so bring it down. There's the Swiss stock super meter thing. Put it up to like, I don't know, 456. And that's it. It's done. Retire the thing. We made it. We got here. It's a wonderful place to be. They all brawled afterwards with the New Day trying to get revenge from last week by throwing Cesaro through a table, but he was saved by his new best friend Nakamura. And then in the back, Cesaro was like, look, we're just gonna have a tables match. Shinsuke wanted a cage one, but as Cesaro told him, yeah, but I don't want to see the New Day dancing around in a cage. I mean, they're gonna dance regardless. That's the worst reason ever, but I was happy with all of this for the reasons stated. We also saw Big Boy Baron in the back, who let us know that he thinks Matt Riddle will lose to AJ Styles later. Thanks, Baron. And then why every damn time, and why am I such a nerd and a geek that I just throw myself in and get excited when they do this? Does WWE not understand trust? Because if you were on the world of social media on Friday, they kept going, oh my gosh, Alexa Bliss is going to have a mystery you won't believe it guest. They were saying, who do you think it's going to be on a Moment of Bliss on SmackDown? So you better tune in, otherwise you may as well just set your ass on fire. And there were a lot of crazy guesses going around, like someone went, it's going to be Becky Lynch. And somebody else went, it's going to be AJ Lee. And I'm like, that's absolutely preposterous. But you did think it was going to be someone different, and you did think it was going to be someone new. And do you know who it turned out to be? Asuka. Now, I love Asuka, I really do. I think she is one of the best wrestlers in the entire world, but that is so disappointing, and that is so lame. down. There was more nonsense here too, because Nikki Cross, who of course had come out with Alexa Bliss, decided halfway through, I'm the special guest, and then she was really let down when she found out she wasn't. But they would have had this conversation in the back. I mean, we're meant to believe that wrestling is real. I know it's not. But she would have gone, oh, Alexa, am I going to be your special guest? She would have gone, no. And even if Nikki had wanted to find out and Alexa had gone, well, I'll tell you later, in fact, it'll be a surprise, you can be surprised too, you would still know it wasn't you. Thankfully, this does tie into a story I think WWE is going to do, so it's okay, but you've got to be quite the narcissist to just go, it's my special guest, I mean me. Thankfully, Sasha Banks and Bayley eventually interrupted, and I tell you, these two can just do no wrong at the moment. They're such assholes, they're so entertaining, and they just spent their few minutes running down the women's division and running down Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Thumbs. They insulted Alexa Bliss, who was more interested in announcing her special guest. And again, it was Asuka, and despite WWE introducing that rule like a month or 2 months ago, that Raw superstars and SmackDown superstars can go to the other brand 4 times a year, not one person mentioned it, so there was no reason as to why this was allowed. Let's just kill the brand split now. Kill it. Take a gun, blow its head off. They don't care, so why should we? What was great is that Sasha and Bayley were so freaked out that the Raw Women's Champ had just turned up, it was like an instinctual reaction. It just started throwing fists and beating people up. Alexa Bliss was then like, everyone's got to calm down. This has gotten ridiculous. And I will say this, all of this would have been fine if you just hadn't built it up as much as you had. It then turned into a tag team match. Who was it? It was Nikki Cross and Asuka taking on Bayley and Sasha Banks, and this is what WWE should have promoted. That would have been a match that if I heard about Friday before SmackDown, I would have gone, yeah, I'll tune into that. It sounds fabu. It was just overhyped because it's so boring when it's somebody that you saw 5 days ago. It'd be like me ringing my parents up and going, you're not gonna believe who's coming to dinner. And it's just me. I turn up to dinner, they'd be like, what a waste of our lives. In between all of this, we did have some more Intercontinental title match hype, and that was really good. It made it feel like a big deal, and Daniel Bryan was there, and Matt Riddle was there, and Drew Gulak was there. And yeah, like I say, it just got me ready and it got me excited. And then we had that tag team match, and surprise, surprise, it was absolutely badass. Like a conductor. Up. That's mostly because it was just good. There was no silliness, there was no nonsense. It kind of was justified because at Extreme Rules we're getting Sasha Banks versus Asuka and we're getting Nikki Cross versus Bayley. So now they'll team off. WWE's been doing this since the dinosaur roamed around. So I'm okay with it. And of course, because Sasha Banks and Bayley are absolute dicks, they kept doing a little bit of cheating. Interestingly though, Bayley won again after she got tripped up Nikki Cross and then put her feet on the ropes to get the 1, 2, 3. Now, usually when WWE does this kind of booking, it means the penultimate loser is actually going to win at the pay-per-view, and I think that would be crazy. You can't take no belt off Bayley. She's Betty Doss belt, whatever she's calling herself. I do think there is some fallout to this though, but I will wait till the relevant segment until we talk about it. But as one last kicking, WWE, next time you do this, please just come up with something better. Go through all the ones we've had in the past too. Remember we were gonna have a surprise tag team and it was Gallows and Anderson. Now we're gonna have a surprise ref and it was Lacey Evans. You need to find people that are going to get us excited, because clearly I'm an absolute moron and I will raise my expectation levels. Although next time I won't, because it's the boy who cried wolf and it's the law of diminishing returns. We then went to the back again and Morrison was properly freaking out that he had to fight Braun Strowman. As you would do, Braun is an absolute monster. And he even said to The Miz, well, you're a good friend, why don't you take him on instead? The Miz is like, oh no, bro, I ain't doing that at all. And I do understand all of this. I just would rather it wasn't with Miz and Morrison. I think they have such good upside. I would have drafted somebody else in, but we will talk about it. Because first it was Bray Wyatt, and I swear he could make anything good. You could give him a pigeon and say, Bray, can you get the pigeon over? And then by the end of it, you'd be like, that pigeon deserves to be world champion. He'd get it up. Because it looked like we were about to get an episode of the Firefly Funhouse, but then everything went all freaky, and we cut to the swamp, where I presume the swamp match is going to take place, and we had old school Bray Wyatt just being old school Bray Wyatt. And Bray is so good at this that this does feel different to the Firefly Folks guy, and it feels different to the Fiend guy. It is actually like he is 3 different people. His major point is that where he is now is where Braun Strowman was born, and I hope he doesn't mean literally, because there was no hygiene here. It looked absolutely disgusting, but because he never became the monster he was meant to, this will be the place that he also dies. Hot damn. It absolutely rocked though, and it reminded you why cult leader Bray, or whatever you want to call him, should have been treated far better than he was, and shouldn't have just lost in every single feud he entered. Well, I'm actually scared that is going to happen at Extreme Rules, but in terms of 5 minutes, I was having a rollicking good time. And then, as expected, Braun Strowman did just roll over and squash John Morrison. Now, I am going to say this. Braun cut a promo beforehand, and why the hell haven't we been letting him do this for the past few weeks? This felt like 2017 Braun, when he just gets a microphone and he's screaming like he wants to kill someone. Like, I'm so mad, I hate everybody, you're gonna die, Bray Wyatt, you're especially gonna die. And if you've never seen him before, especially because he's just massive, you'd be like, holy crap, that guy's he's off his rocker. So that part, getting up. But really, I'm just biased towards John Morrison. That's what this is. I don't think we should have put him in this spot because he lost here in around about 2 minutes. He got 0 offense in. He got thrown around like he was a ball. Then he got power slammed and he got pinned. I think he's so good and he has so much upside and still so much potential, even though I think he's in his 40s. I would prep him for a world title run at some point, but clearly I'm buying myself. But still, it's getting it down. And just to clarify, I do think Braun should have run across somebody. You just should have found a different somebody. Going back to that interview too, the only odd thing he said, like it just came from absolutely nowhere, was that he needs to do this so that Bray Wyatt doesn't turn into the Fiend. He's not Mum-Ra, Braun Strowman. Doesn't go into a little skeleton thing and then come out in that red cloak. I didn't see it coming. However, am I pumped for this Swamp match? Somehow, I am. As Morrison was being helped to the back too because he took such a beating, Lacey Evans came out looking like she was about to fix my car, and for all intents and purposes, she has turned heel, she has turned to the dark side because she lost a karaoke contest to Naomi last week. So Edge and Booker T can heat their heart out after they had a feud over shampoo. I do not know what we're doing. Down. And I'll have to explain this to one of my non-wrestling fans soon, or my casual wrestling fans that want to be caught up. Oh, why did Lacey Evans turn heel? And I have to reply, well, she didn't do well in the sing contest, so now she's like evil again. And they will say, Simon, I hate you, and I will go, I hate thee too. She was fighting Naomi, obviously, and just to make sure that you understood now she was a bad guy, she at one point took Naomi's hair and tied it up in the ropes. That would have been a cool spot if everything else with this karaoke wasn't hanging over our heads, especially because when Naomi did remove it, she turned around, she got smacked with the women's right, and Lacey won. So actually this was a good move for Evans because she feels much more natural as this kind of a character, but I still can't get everything else out of my head, and I also feel pretty sorry for Naomi. Not only is she really talented, but she has cool gear. And when she comes out, you're instantly like, oh, who's that person? And yet WWE never does nothing with her. So I don't get it. I know some people said, oh, you overreacted to the karaoke segment. Well, you're allowed your opinion, and I'm allowed mine. And I just gave this. Then Kayla Braxton, in the back, asked Jeff Hardy, in complete seriousness, why, Jeff, have you decided to put your sobriety on the line when you take on Sheamus in a bar fight brawl? This is me trying to remove my own head, because if I do that, I'll never have to hear such questions again. I mean, I think it may be the worst sentence in WWE history, and I've watched Triple H trying to hump a dead body. It means we are actually meant to believe when these two do clash in a pub, there's the fear that Jeff Hardy will ignore Sheamus, see all the booze, and just start getting drunk. That is a down. Hardy even said this was a risk, so then why do it, Jeff? Why do it? I know it's because you think Sheamus is like the addiction and you have to battle it, but that didn't go well here because he just appeared, another one that just appeared from nowhere. He booted him right in the face and then was like, oh, fella, I'm gonna beat you up, fella. And apparently this is not happening at the pay-per-view and it's happening on SmackDown next week, so I will apologize because I did predict it on the Extreme Rules prediction video, which you can watch now. But I did my best. Right, this Nikki Cross stuff. I think that we're teasing that she may be returning to crazy Nikki Cross and that we may even be getting a feud between her and Alexa Bliss. And if we do all of that, you can strap me in. I'd like it. Because she was here telling Alexa that her confidence is now in the toilet because she keeps losing to Bayley, and that going into the pay-per-view, she has no faith that she's going to win. Alexa's like, no, don't be silly, don't be silly. You've got it, you've got everything, you're powered to win, but Nikki wouldn't listen. Given that before this, Sasha Banks and Bayley had been laughing at her, and they were laughing at her again right now, Nikki did lose her mind, and she just started to beat the schnoz out of these two, like, would you shut up? Would you stop it? I'm sick of it. So I tell you what should happen. Nikki should now lose at the pay-per-view, as we all want, so we can continue to build the Sasha and Bayley storyline, and she's just so enraged, and she's so struggling to deal with it, that she attacks a Bliss, and we go down that line. And also, that will explain all the losses she has had on SmackDown over the last couple of weeks, and it will be a long-term story. And if that happens, I will do a backflip. I won't, because I'll land on my neck and break it and be dead, but in my head, backflipping away. Also, just want to throw in here, for the second time on this show, because Alexa Bliss had mentioned it too earlier on, the Women's Evolution was mentioned because we were celebrating the anniversary of when it all kicked off. But are we doing another all-women's pay-per-view, which we should have done? And that's what Alexa Bliss's announcement should have been about? No, we're not. You tell me. Our main event was for the Intercontinental title as Matt Riddle took on AJ Styles, and it was just an absolute fest of enjoyment, because of course it was. Like I always say, these two are just too good to have a bad match. So in terms of what they did, the nuts and bolts, it is getting it up. It was all about certain control at the start, and AJ Styles was getting super pissed off because he could never be the one in the lead. Matt Riddle was too good for him. He had too much skill. So AJ was like, all right, what you don't have is experience. I've got that in droves. And then he used that to take over. It was so easy to understand, and it was so well told. Styles was able to keep the upper hand by doing things like dropping Matt Riddle over the top rope, and then he started to work over his leg like it was his maths homework, because of course then Matt can't do any of his offense, but also it makes him susceptible to the calf crusher. This is so smart. Obviously Riddle burst into life before long, and he even tried to hit a moonsault, but he landed on his feet. So you know what Styles did? He just kicked his leg from out under his own leg, because Owen Hart knew what he was talking about. They then hit all these moves and it peaked, and I was really, really excited. But of course, WWE couldn't help themselves now, could they? Because after Styles had locked in the calf crusher, Matt Riddle was able to reverse it into a bro mission, and I actually thought, oh my gosh, this is it. We're gonna have a quick Intercontinental title change, but that makes all the sense in the world, because we're gonna push Matt to the very top. But no. Instead, AJ countered into the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, and I can only guess that Matt was so shocked by this, he got pinned for the 1, 2, 3. And once again, this would have been fine and actually a really good part of the narrative if World Wrestling Entertainment didn't do it every single week. It kind of even tied into the story. AJ Styles had let us know that he was the more experienced of the two, so he'd use that experience here, and Matt Riddle needs to think a bit more. But again, pull my counter down. This is the 54th one of 2020, and I didn't even start in January. I started in March. I'm just done with them because we've done too many of them, and that's such a shame, because as proven here, it does have a time and it does have a place. But I have no choice. Getting it down. That is it for these two now as well, because while there was a sign of respect as they shook hands afterwards, then Baron Corbin arrived and he absolutely whipped Matt Riddle's ass, and he gave him the end of days. And AJ just watched this but decided to walk off, which I like because it gives him more depth as a character. So he is a heel, but he's not a total prick. He just chooses to be a prick as and when. And yeah, I'm gonna guess at SummerSlam it's gonna be Matt Riddle versus Baron Corbin. Which brought us to the end of yet another SmackDown, and it was just another very odd show. And the good bits are actually really good, but the bad bits just make you baffled. It wasn't as bad as last week, and it was passable, and I certainly enjoyed it more than 7 days ago where I felt like I was having a breakdown. So it is gonna get an up, but that is like an on the cusp up, but I'm very excited about Extreme Rules. Mostly because somebody is gonna have their eye out. Apparently using, wait for it, CG. Hi. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's episode of SmackDown. Like the video, share the video, hit the subscribe button, please, I beg you. Then go over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon from WhatCulture. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you go watch my predictions for Extreme Rules. Make sure you're back here tomorrow and we up those downs for Impact Slammiversary, and come back on Monday for the big one. It's ups and downs for the horror show at Extreme Rules.